Thank you, John, for those very kind words. And thank you, Jack, for your message. I sure wish I would have rehearsed mine now. Before I start my formal remarks, I would ask you to do me a favor, a very quick favor, and that is if you would go to page 5 of the commencement bulletin, I guess it's called. And please, for the love of God, tell me that I look better in person. Please. Good afternoon. It is an honor for me to be here today to celebrate the significance of your accomplishments and on behalf of the 12 high-quality graduate programs housed in the 4 colleges here at UW-Whitewater. When I was asked several months ago to be one of the commencement speakers, I quickly and humbly said yes, but then I couldn't help but immediately wonder if I was qualified to give such a speech. What advice could I possibly give such a talented and unique group of individuals? I mean, I'm just an accounting professor. And in many ways, I still really haven't grown up yet. I go to Disney 3 to 4 times a year. I listen to Celtic drinking and rebel songs. And I still consider Guinness to be one of life's necessities. And for all intents and purposes, let's be real, I'm still in school and I'm 57 years old. I eventually concluded that since I was asked to speak, someone must have thought I had something to offer. And so I prepared today with the gravity and diligence that many of you prepared for your final exams and writing your final term papers. I started writing my speech last night about 11:30. After playing video games for a few hours, I typed commencement speech into Google, opened a couple of cans of Red Bull, and then went to bed. Seriously, I wasn't sure where to start. So I began by listening to several commencement speakers. I also read several articles that provided practical suggestions on writing and delivering commencement addresses. In other words, I did what any good researcher would do. I looked for material that I could plagiarize without getting caught. As an aside, though, and mildly serious, I would highly recommend listening to Ellen DeGeneres' speech at Tulane University in 2009 and Conan O'Brien's speech to Dartmouth University in 2011 as 2 of the most outstanding. I believe that I grew by preparing this particular speech and coming across those 2. They're very, very good. The first suggestion that I read, though, said, make them laugh a little, but remember that you are not a stand-up comedian. Well, no worries there, because I'm terrible at remembering and delivering jokes. And most of my jokes, quite honestly, can't be told in mixed company. And by that, I mean accountants and non-accountants. Here's a couple to show you what I mean. Did you hear the one about the interesting accountant? No? Me either. What do accountants call a trial balance that doesn't balance? A late night. And what happens when you lock a wild hyena and an accountant in a room? The hyena stops laughing. Second suggestion I found was do your homework because details are important. So I found that there was, as of last spring, 30.4% of U.S. adults 25 years and older that had bachelor's degrees, at least bachelor's degrees. 10.9% had at least a master's degree. Now, who but an accountant would quote statistics like 10.9 instead of around 11%, or about 11%, or approximately 11%? And I can see that my MPA students right now are saying, he didn't carry it to 5 decimals. The third suggestion I read was practice, but don't sound practiced. In other words, sound like you actually speak for a living. A fourth and related suggestion was make your speech thought-provoking, but not too much. And I guess you'll be the only judges of that at the end on whether or not I achieve that suggestion. The fifth recommendation went straight to my original concerns about whether or not I was qualified to deliver a message or if I had anything of substance to say to you. Specifically, the fifth recommendation was be inspiring, but avoid worthless cliches. For example, one cliche is follow your dreams. I prefer the phrase follow your passion because the reality is your dreams will be different in 5 years than they are today. And the reality is that your dreams when you started your collegiate careers are probably different than they were today. But if you follow your passion, that's very different than following your dreams. I have no doubt that they will easily define who you are, and you will be very, very happy. Another example of a cliche is don't be afraid to fail. And again, I agree with this cliche in principle, Because oftentimes, I and other people that I know have learned more from their mistakes than they have from their successes. Oops, there's another cliche, isn't it? Sorry. But failing is never the goal, regardless of how much you learn or how much you grow as a result of that failure. If it happens, deal with it. If it happens, manage it. If it happens, you're normal. But learn from your mistakes and move on. Finally, there's the cliche, go out and change the world. Well, the world is a pretty big place. I guess I'd prefer that it said, go out and remain true to yourself. Go out and live your lives with the utmost integrity in everything that you do, including how you raise your kids, how you treat your spouse, how you treat your neighbors, how you go about your work, wherever that might be. I know this might sound weird, but let the world take care of itself. But if you live and behave with ceaseless ethical integrity, you'll be surprised what an impact you'll have in your world. And if enough people live that way, I have no doubt that the world will be changed. You know, I can only think of a handful of people who really had a significant effect on the whole world. Bill Gates might be one, Steve Jobs might be another, Mother Teresa might be another. Aaron Rodgers certainly is in that category. I want to apologize if you're a Chicago Bears fan and don't understand what a professional football player is, but that's Aaron Rodgers. I was going to use the Vikings. But the most important and useful suggestion I found was this sixth one, and there are only 7 if you're keeping track. Be personal and be relevant to the graduates. I don't like this suggestion at all, even though I knew that it was true, because if I was going to follow this suggestion, I would have to reveal something personal and private about myself. In addition to revealing something personal and private about myself, I have to make it meaningful to you. This isn't about me today, it's about you. So I guess it's about time to explain the crutches and what they may or may not mean to you. In February 2011, I was diagnosed with chondrosarcoma, which is a very rare form of bone cancer that doesn't respond to chemotherapy or radiation treatment. The only known cure is to surgically remove the tumor and then pray for the best. Pray was my word. Hope for the best was the doctor's words. I prefer to pray than to hope, and I guess it's one of semantics. So on March 14th of 2011, I underwent a 15-hour surgery with 4 leading surgeons and spent 40 days in the hospital. As a result, my left pelvis, hip, part of my femur, most of the surrounding muscle tissue were removed. There's nothing over there holding things together. I don't understand why the thing is still attached, but it is. I was quite active before my surgery, and I believe I'm quite active now, but I will never walk unassisted again. Many people tell me that they are inspired or motivated or have reset their priorities because of the way my wife and I have handled our situation. While I appreciate their kind words and prayers, I am really usually embarrassed to hear them, because all I really want to do is to live a normal life. Not the way things were, but the way things are. Not my old life, but my new life. Not the old normal, but the new normal. So my approach is simple, and my advice to you, I hope, is equally as simple. Don't ever feel sorry for yourself. You're the only person that spends 60 seconds every minute, 60 minutes every hour. You're with yourself all of the time, and there's nobody else in the world that will do that. It doesn't do any good to feel sorry for yourself. Love and cherish your support team to the fullest. You're never going to know when you're going to need them. Never, ever let your attitude and your behavior be associated with the phrase, "that's good enough." Walt Disney feverishly followed a concept called plussing. It means giving more than your customers paid for, more than they expect, more than you have to give them. Mr. Disney's whole philosophy could be summed up as get the job done, but don't ever, ever sacrifice quality. The highest praise you could receive from Mr. Disney was when he said, "That'll work." In the early 1960s, the Sherman Brothers auditioned for Mr. Disney with a couple of songs that they had written for a new movie project of his called Mary Poppins. The Sherman Brothers poured everything they had into those songs and were understandably nervous. But during the audition, Mr. Disney sat unmoving and seemingly distracted. At the end, he simply said, "That'll work," and got up and left. Sherman Brothers were devastated until the other Disney executives crowded around them, slapping them on the back, shaking their hand, saying, "You boys have just hit a home run. You're set for life." They ended up writing more motion picture musical scores than any other songwriting team in film history. The last film that Walt Disney produced was Cinderella in 1959 because he spent the last 8 years of his life plussing Disneyland and designing Walt Disney World. One year he introduced a Christmas parade that cost $350,000, which is about $2 million in today's economy. The bean counters, and yes, he did call accountants bean counters, approached Mr. Disney and said, "Why spend money on a Christmas parade? It won't draw people to the park. They're already here, so it's an expense that we can do without. No one will complain if we dispense with the parade because nobody's expecting it." His response was, "That's the whole point. We should do the parade because no one's expecting it. Always give more than is expected." The seventh and final suggestion I read about commencement speeches was this: keep it short. Now, had I done that one first, oh, never mind. So let me conclude with this final missive to the 2012 graduates. I hope you never settle for good enough. I hope you always remain true to yourselves when the circumstances around you are anything but normal. And I hope you plus everything that you do. If you do these things, I suspect that you will be happy and successful for a very long time. Go Warhawks, God bless you, and thank you for this opportunity.